Welcome to the 2020 Annual Compliance Meeting. General ACM and Insurance, with CEO Glenn Williams and President Peter Schneider.
Welcome to the General Annual Compliance Meeting for all insurance licensed Primerica reps for 2020. You know, this is a special event because it's really the only time when we try to get every single insurance licensed Primerica rep together at one time to hear one message. So the first thing I'd like to do is congratulate you on your continuing efforts to build a great Primerica business. Today we're going to talk about how to make it great by keeping it compliant, but I know you've worked hard to recruit and build your team, to learn and execute in the insurance business and also in the investment business and maybe even in our new mortgage business and other areas as well. So congratulations and thank you for all your efforts in those areas. You know, in 2020, we've had an interesting and exciting year, but it's also been a great year as we anticipated. It's the first year of our decade of dominance. And even though we've been distracted for many months by the COVID-19 pandemic, we've not lost our vision. We continue to dominate the financial services industry as we go through this entire decade, and we continue to have that great vision. And we've accomplished some great things. We've set records. We've set our largest month ever for investment sales in 2020. We've set our largest month ever in insurance sales in 2020. We've set our largest month ever in paying our sales force cash compensation in any month in 2020. Even though it's been a year with a lot of disruptions and distractions, it's already been a record year. And so even as we come together to talk about compliance, we can celebrate your success. You know, I think there's so many reasons why we're such a great company and we can accomplish those types of things even during disruptive times. But one of the things I put at the top of our list of strengths is the great relationship we have between you, our sales force, and the great home office team we're blessed with. You know, we have well over 2,000 full-time teammates that work every single day to support you in the field and to serve our clients. And they're a very special group of people that I'm blessed to work with every day. And they recognize that their success is tied directly to your success. And so that relationship that we have where we're supporting each other and we're winning together truly is what makes Primerica special. And so I always want to recognize that and remind us of that as we think about in this area of compliance, how we work together and how the home office resources support all of you in the field. You know, this has been an interesting year where we've experienced things that we never imagined we would experience before. And one of that has been changing our business model from a face-to-face model that we've done for 43 years to a model that can still be done face-to-face when it's allowed and when it's appropriate. But also we've had tremendous success with a remote business model. And we adapted very quickly when the conditions and the regulations required that. And we continued to grow and be successful in new ways. To me, that's exciting because it means that the Primerica model can succeed in a lot of different versions. And we saw it when it was required, and now we're in a time of transition when we're learning how that business could be done remotely when we choose to do it, not when we have to do it. And Peter, welcome to the ACM today, but I'd like first for you just to comment on your perspective on the flexibility and adaptability of Primerica as we've navigated through some very difficult waters in 2020.
Well, Glenn, you know, it's really been nothing short of extraordinary. And if you had said to me, and I've said this before, if you'd said to me that in 2020, following an amazing start to the year, really, that we would be in a situation where licensing got shut down, where everyone had to stay home, where you couldn't do parameds weren't being done, and the world really ground to a halt, where the markets changed so dramatically from the upward swing they've been on, when really unemployment rose the way it did, that all that would happen in the first few months of the year. And yet here we would be with our track record of success. I would have said that I would have doubted it. I would have said that, you know, that's a movie I've seen on Netflix. It can't be real, but we know it is real. We know it happened. And what's been really a tremendous source, I think, of pride for all of us is the way our field force has adapted to this environment. It shows the strength of Primerica. And frankly, as we entered our 10th year as a public company, you know, we started as a public company in a time of recession, in a time when no one was thriving, but we were going public. We were taking on the challenges. You know, it's almost fitting that in our 10th anniversary of our IPO, here we are again, dealing with challenges, being tested as a company, and yet continuing to thrive like we've always done.
You're right, Peter. It is an amazing testament to this great business and this great business model led by all the entrepreneurs that are listening to us right now. We're so grateful for your toughness and your tenacity. And I've said it before that I believe this company was actually created to defy the odds. And defying the odds is in our DNA. So when a challenge arises, this great team steps up, both field and home office, and does some amazing things. But, you know, even when the path that we take is not the path we had originally planned for the first year of the decade of dominance, we know we're succeeding. We know we're here for the long term. We know we still have a great vision, and we know that we still need to remain compliant. You know, there's never an excuse to say the conditions were created where compliance doesn't matter. In fact, in stressful times, compliance matters more than ever before. And so that's why the annual compliance meeting is important for you to participate in today. And what I'd like to do in the few minutes before we turn it over to the main body of the program is talk about some of the highlights, some of the areas of key focus that we want to bring to your attention as we do every year, because we think they're all important, but these are really important, and they're things to really consider as we build our Primerica business together. And Peter, I'd love to have your comments on these, because the first one is an area that I know is near and dear to your heart and is part of your leadership responsibility at Primerica, and that's the area of reputation of our business. You know, our reputation is critical to the value of our business and our ability to do business. And we've taken some very important steps in the last year plus to improve our reputation, increase our profile, increase the positives about Primerica that are in the marketplace. And that helps us all build better businesses, but it's all part of our responsibility to protect that reputation. Peter, give us your thoughts on that.
Well, here's the thing about reputation, Glenn. You know, we are all part of Primerica, and we are all collectively responsible for the reputation of our company. And by the way, that means Primerica as a company, but it also means us individually, our image. And your reputation comes from the promises you make and whether or not you keep them. At the bottom line, that's what reputation is about. Are you playing by the rules? What are the promises, the commitments you're making to other people, and are you abiding by them? Because if you are, you're going to be viewed as trustworthy. You're going to be viewed as someone that people have confidence in. And in this situation that we've been in, what we've seen is Primerica's reputation grow. And the reason Primerica's reputation has grown is because, number one, we stand behind the promises we've made to our policyholders. We have been there for them in the policies we've written at a time when they needed it. This is a company that stood its ground and continued, by the way, to write business in the midst of a pandemic. Second, we stood by our investment clients, each of us, members of the field, dealing with folks who are panicked and nervous. And we stood by those who look at our business opportunity, who maybe are in a situation where they need more income. Maybe they're furloughed from their jobs. Maybe they're just looking for a change in their life. Whatever it is, we always need to keep our reputation in mind, and that is to present our opportunity in the right way. And I think our reputation has risen up and continues to rise because of the way we've conducted ourselves in an environment like this. And I'm not surprised one bit by that. Now, is there more we can do? There's always more we can do. We're working on social media. You know, we've rolled out the social media blueprint. We're making sure that our image is out there. But in a situation like this, the world is really watching you. And so far, Glenn, I mean, I could not be more proud of the way we've conducted ourselves and the way our image and reputation has not only been sustained, but been improved because of how we've handled ourselves in a very difficult situation.
Peter, I think you handled that so well. You described it so well. It's all about us making the right promises and then keeping those promises, delivering on them. And of course, we're working hard on it as a company, and we want to ask our sales force to join us in that effort. Let's be conscious of the types of commitments and promises we're making when we communicate, and let's make sure they're accurate, make sure they're complete, they're not overstated, they're not inaccurate. And then let's deliver on those promises, whether it's a big promise like paying off on a death claim, or whether it's a small promise like returning a phone call or keeping an appointment. All of that plays into our reputation. And of course, in today's world, online and in social media, everything is magnified, the positives and the negatives. I'm sure there are a lot of you watching today that are like me, and it really makes your blood boil when somebody says something negative about Primerica, particularly when it's not true. And there's so much of that out there online, and we're working hard to get as much of that out of the public eye as possible. But you know, it's going to be impossible to do that, because you can say about anything you want to with almost no requirements or justification needed out online if you're being critical. But we are going to replace all of that and overcome all of that with more positive information. Even if it still exists, we want to dwarf it with the positive side of our reputation, because we have so much to be proud of. And we want to encourage you, as you listen to the ACM, to be considering how to help us do that and follow in our footsteps. It'll help us all build a better and more successful business. You know, right alongside reputation, Peter, are our regulatory obligations. And we have a lot of regulators because we're in a lot of different businesses, and they all have their sets of priorities. And even in times of disruption, we're required to abide by the regulations. Their sensitivities change year by year. And so, Peter, why don't you talk to us a little bit about the issues that are most sensitive to our regulators right now?
Well, you know, we've implemented regulation best interest, which is a new SEC rule in the securities area, but it really applies beyond securities. What that rule says is you've got to act in the best interest of clients. That's as simple as that. Now, it took 1,000 pages to get there, so there's a lot of detail with that. But basically, we're in an environment in which the best interest of clients, whether that's in life insurance, securities, or even in our business opportunity, needs to be front and center. And that's an expectation that regulators have of us. The other area of really regulatory focus right now, and you see it on social media in particular, is from the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, which regulates the business opportunity side of our business. We need to make sure we're accurate in the way we portray our opportunity, especially when you have a situation like we've been in of high unemployment, where people are maybe looking for jobs. You know, we're a business opportunity. We're not a salaried position. And it's very important that we be accurate about that. In addition, you know, you've got to get a license. That's a very important part of when we talk to folks. And we need to avoid being like some other companies you've seen out there that portray themselves through lifestyle and earnings potential. We have great earnings potential in our business. We pay hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to our field force. We should all be proud of that. But where the regulators come in, particularly the FTC, is they look at typicality. So, Glenn, you know, an area where the Federal Trade Commission has had focus is on the way we portray our business opportunity. Not for us, they haven't come after us, but they've highlighted this for other firms. They've sent letters to other firms to make sure that they're not using earnings claims, for example, lifestyle claims in an environment like this, where they consider people to be more vulnerable. Again, other companies, not us, but vulnerable because perhaps they're looking for a job, they've lost theirs, or they're furloughed, and we have a business opportunity. We don't have a salary position. Plus, you have to work at Primerica, and we have great success. We have great compensation to the field, but it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, and it should never be portrayed that way. Plus, whenever we're out there talking about our products, life insurance, it's going to sell itself in this environment. We don't need to tie it to what's in the world right now in a pandemic. So all of those are considerations. The bottom line is that we got to be accurate always in what we do. We got to abide by the rules when it comes to lifestyle and earnings claims. All of those, by the way, are available on Primerica online in the compliance tab. Everyone needs to be familiar with that. And we need to understand we're on display. So a lot of times these things come up in social media. We need to pay very careful attention to that.
Peter, that was some more great advice on regulatory issues that become even more sensitive during special times like we're experiencing now. So that was some great input you just provided for us. You know, another area of importance in 2020 that I believe is more important than ever before because we're operating remotely are the areas of cyber and information security. We are using cyber capabilities more than we ever have in Primerica, and I think that increases the focus on the need for security on those. What do you think about that, Peter?
Well, you're exactly right, Glenn. You know, the fact that we're both remote and also stepping out, the environment is changing all the time for us because of the situation. But cybersecurity was important before, it's important now, and some would argue it's more important now. And that goes, by the way, to client privacy and confidentiality of information. All of those are important because the world today, we're using devices, we're using means to communicate that are remote from each other. And whenever you do that, you run risks. You run risks that someone's going to try and grab information, risks that cybersecurity is going to be compromised, risks that you're going to say something in a public forum on a Zoom event or something like that where you're going to give client information out and invade someone's privacy. We don't necessarily do that knowingly, but these things can happen. It's sort of the risk is increased because of how we're communicating. This is less so when you're simply face to face. And so what we need to do is be mindful of that, be more careful, and understand that we have an obligation as a business. By the way, that goes all the way back to reputation. That's a promise we make to our clients, promise we make to each other, that we're going to be vigilant about protecting client information, protecting identities, privacy, and keeping data secure. We're entrusted with that data. It's very important as a business that we continue to treat it in a way that meets client expectations.
Well, Peter, I appreciate you raising those particular sensitivities that are a little unique to 2020, but many of them we've talked about before, and preparing us to dive into the longer list of things that we need to focus on in our annual compliance meeting for 2020. You know, if you're out there in the field and you're watching right now, it's very easy to be intimidated by all this information. And I want to encourage you not to do that. The purpose of the ACM is not to frighten you, not to shock you, not to scare you, but to actually give you confidence that you can run a gigantic Primerica business and keep it compliant at the same time. In order to do that, in order to have that confidence and not be paralyzed by fear, I think you need to recognize the resources that are available to you. That's what this ACM meeting is. It's the tip of the spear in a group of resources that are provided specifically so that you have the help that you need whenever you need it. You know, Peter mentioned important information out on Primerica Online and things like the compliance manuals and the social media blueprint. There are dozens and dozens of resources out on POL, but there's also our infrastructure of human beings. There are people that you can call in the office of the General Counsel, in our supervision area. You can call your uplines and start with them if you're not sure who to call at the home office. But I want to encourage you, don't just be nervous about you don't know. If you've got a question, get the answer. And the resources are in place. That's another great trait of Primerica. One of our greatest characteristics is the support we provide for the sales force in areas of compliance, in areas of regulation, in areas of just the right policy and the right way to do the business. There's never a question that is so unimportant that you can't ask. Please ask every single question. You'll get a lot of those questions answered in the remainder of this ACM program. So we're going to go to that right now, hosted by Julie Seaman, along with a panel of field and home office experts.
Thanks, Glenn and Peter, and welcome to the 2020 annual compliance meeting. As you can see, we look a little different this year. Like most of us, we found ourselves in unusual circumstances, but that has never stopped Primerica. We've embraced technology, and we're bringing you ACM via Zoom. So even though we may look a little different, our ACM program will have the same important content to help you run a compliant life insurance business. Experts from the home office will be joining me to offer their knowledge and expertise as we discuss a wide variety of key topics. We also feel it's important for you to hear from top field leaders who will bring their insights and experience to our panel discussion on various subjects. We'll talk about what you should and should not do in certain situations, and then offer guidelines so we can help you protect yourself and your business. But before we get started, let's take care of a little housekeeping. All of the ACM information you need, including the ACM workbook, is available for download on POL. Please go to the Compliance tab, choose Compliance, US or Canada, click Links, and then ACM. Please take a look at the workbook because it contains vital information to help you run a compliant business. Accompanying the workbook are the attestations for all Primerica representatives, so make sure you review those as well. If you're securities licensed or if your license is pending, you will need to complete your securities attestations on POL. In Canada, life licensed and mutual fund registered reps may also complete their attestation online. Finally, once again this year, we've added a short segment for RVPs and branch managers, which will provide guidance on running a compliant business. So if you're an RVP or satellite manager, you must watch that final video for your ACM requirement to be complete. I think you'll all be happy to know we've brought back our chaos character to liven up our short dramatizations. No matter what kind of disruption he causes, our Primerica field leaders and panel are here to guide you in the right way to conduct your business. So let's begin this year's annual compliance meeting with our first segment, Field Underwriting. With me now is RVP Diana Macias and Assistant Vice President Elizabeth Talent. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Julie. It's good to be back.
One of the first aspects of field underwriting we want to address are the requirements surrounding either taking an application in person or video conferencing. So let's start with video conferencing. Elizabeth, what are some of the guidelines we have to remember?
First off, with video conferencing, you'll need an online program that supports you being able to see the insureds, the people we are insuring, and that you have access to all documents and the application. So you'll need document sharing capabilities. Then the client has to be able to assume control so they can personally input their own social security number or electronic signature remotely to appropriately authorize either the electronic application, the policy change form, or the reinstatement.
So the video conference has to have file sharing capabilities and input capabilities on both ends.
That's right. So services like FaceTime, text messaging, instant messaging are apps that don't allow you to both see the insured and have the proper document sharing capabilities are not an appropriate way to conduct video applications.
Diana, you've used video conferencing. Can you add any other helpful tips for our field?
Sure. Video conference is a great way to reach out to clients remotely. In addition to the client being able to assume control, as Elizabeth mentioned, you also have to be aware of licensing requirements. As the writing rep, I must be licensed in both the jurisdictions in which I am located and the jurisdiction of my client. The application state is based on where my client, the insured, is physically located at the time of the sale.
So once you meet those requirements, do you find you use it a lot?
It's helpful with clients out of town or out of state. Once the technology is set up, it really makes the process run smoothly.
So let's move on to field underwriting. Elizabeth, can you outline some parameters of the application process?
Actually, the application process starts with the field. It's very important for the field rep to know their client. Although it's not a requirement, we strongly recommend the field reps ask for and review client identification, just to confirm who they're meeting with, especially if it's not someone they know from their warm market.
If I can jump in here, we take this very seriously. It is our responsibility as writing reps who will potentially be taking the app to properly field underwrite by personally or virtually meeting with the proposed primary insured and, if applicable, the spouse. Then we ask all medical questions individually in detail as they are listed on the application. Each person, for example, the husband and the wife or partners or whoever is being insured, has to answer the questions themselves.
What if you're insuring children?
Any children should have the same medical questions asked, which sometimes feels a little awkward, but we have to do it.
And I would like to add that if you're increasing coverage or reinstating coverage, these rules still apply. You must properly field underwrite.
So let's take a moment to talk about signatures. We address this topic every year, and quite frankly, the rules never change. Do they, Elizabeth?
No, they don't. I can say with a good amount of certainty that a circumstance does not exist where someone should sign someone else's name to an application, policy change form, reinstatement application, or any other supplemental life insurance documents. And this includes payment authorizations or beneficiary changes. Bottom line, no one should ever sign for someone else.
That's also true in the field. There may be instances where a rep finds themselves in a situation where they think, well, this is just taking a little shortcut. I can tell you right now what I'm telling my team. Don't do it. If you don't properly obtain an insured signature or policy owner signature, you can put your business at risk as well as the integrity of the policy.
And that's not good for anyone.
No, it isn't. Plus, it can result in client complaints, which could escalate to a regulatory complaint. Taking shortcuts on client signatures or field underwriting is not worth jeopardizing your business or the company's reputation.
Next, let's talk about submitting business under your own agent code. This seems like standard operating procedure. So Elizabeth, what advice can you give?
There's an agent certification on every application. When you put your solution number on an application, you're confirming you took the application properly, that the client has authorized it, and you properly witnessed the signatures.
So this is a way to protect you, your client, and the company.
And from a field leader standpoint, it is very important for the client to know that the writing agent is the licensed agent. There's credibility in that and a trust you reinforce with your client.
So let's talk about an obvious question. What happens if you use someone else's code? Elizabeth, you may want to address that one.
Putting business under someone else's code is not an acceptable business practice. This type of activity can result in all kinds of confusion. As we stated, the client may not understand who the representative is. There could be unlicensed selling, which could cause a client complaint or a regulatory violation. And if you take the process further, using someone else's code could result in unforeseen compensation challenges and tax consequences.
So I guess the best advice is to not start that chain of events and maintain trust with your client, as Diana mentioned, which brings us to beneficiaries and understanding your relationship with your clients. Diana, why don't you give us your thoughts on that?
I believe that as a field rep, it is my responsibility to have a meaningful conversation with the insured whenever they're designating third-party policy payers, owners, and beneficiaries.
Let me give a little bit of background here. A third-party payer or a third-party owner exists when the primary insured is not the policy payer or owner. Primerica considers grandparents, parents, a spouse, or a child to be an acceptable third-party payer or owner. There are also key man policies which have more to do with the business. A key man policy occurs when the primary insured is an officer, owner, or partner of an established business, and that business would suffer a significant financial loss should that key person pass. In these cases, the business would also be the beneficiary, owner, and payer.
So we began this segment by talking about the relationship you build with your client. Diana, in light of third-party payers and beneficiaries, how do you understand the client's wishes and build trust?
If there's a third-party payer, I first have to make sure that the payer is aware of the policy and has agreed to pay the insurance premiums, mostly because they'll likely be ongoing. I also need to properly disclose the relationship of the third-party payer and the account holder on the application.
I'd like to mention here that it's important to understand that extended family members or friends are not considered acceptable policy payers. Furthermore, a representative should not pay the premium unless the rep is an acceptable policy payer. Paying a client's premium could be considered rebating, which may be a regulatory violation.
So what happens if you get this all set up and there are changes?
Well, it is my job to be very clear with my clients that if there's a third-party owner, the primary and spouse, if applicable, understand that by designating a third-party owner, that owner must authorize any subsequent changes to the policy.
And what about designating a beneficiary?
A beneficiary should be someone who has an insurable interest in the life of the insured and would suffer a financial loss in the event of the proposed insured's death. An example of a beneficiary would be a spouse, a parent, or a child. However, if a minor is listed as a beneficiary, financial guardianship for the minor would be required before the policy proceeds can be paid. A trust may also be a beneficiary. However, the trust must be legally established. If a client advises you that they trust a certain person to take care of their arrangements, that's not considered a legally established trust.
Are there guidelines around naming a beneficiary?
Many states have laws that impact beneficiary designations. For example, following a divorce which could revoke a beneficiary designation made before the divorce occurred, if anyone in the field becomes aware that their life insurance clients are involved in a divorce, they should tell them to make sure their own divorce attorneys are aware of all their life insurance policies.
Very good advice. Let's go on to reinstatement business and policy change increases. Diana, how do you handle those?
When I'm in the field, I usually treat reinstatements and policy change increases the same way I treat a new business application. If I have the client's commitment, I just focus on submitting good quality business. But if a client needs to reinstate their coverage, then I must ensure that the client is committed to the product. If the client is looking for additional coverage, I need to make sure that any additional coverage they might request fits the client's financial needs. Then I need to talk to them and prepare my client for any possible underwriting requirements so that the coverage will successfully place.
So reinstatement is just as important as writing the initial policy.
Exactly. Whether reinstating or adding coverage in person or virtually, field underwrite just as you would a new business application. It's your responsibility as the servicing agent to ask all the related medical disclosure questions and properly collect and witness client signatures.
Got it. So our last topic in this segment today is QBI and persistency. Diana, I know this is something you feel very strongly about.
Yes, it is a very important part of my business because everyone plays a vital role in the success of placing new business in force. Submitting quality business starts with the writing representative. When we're in the field, we must always write good business, selling to policyholders who are serious about getting life insurance and capable of paying the premium for the term of the policy. It is our responsibility to ensure the requested coverage meets the client's financial needs. And if there is any pending business, we need to make sure we follow up, keeping our clients informed of the application process, and if necessary, any underwriting requirements they should be aware of so they're prepared.
What's the process for securities license reps?
If you're securities licensed, focus on buying term and investing the difference, the core of what Primerica is built on. If you're not securities licensed, consider offering other products. Long-term clients with multiple products have proven to sustain consistent business. Submitting a good quality of business ensures that full commissions are paid and chargebacks are reduced or simply don't happen.
Any specific advice for RVPs?
Yes, just a reminder for RVPs to monitor their persistency in QBI. They may also consider utilizing the bank account validation program within the virtual base shop. The bank account validation program can alert you to challenges with the bank account number provided on the application, and you can also verify bank account information from a client. Think about conducting quality control calls, taking their downlines off of auto submit. All of these steps could help improve their QBI and persistency.
Thanks, Elizabeth and Diana, for all the good information and for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Julie.
Next up is data privacy and security. With me now is Assistant General Counsel Shive Rao. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Julie. It's nice to be here.
You always have very timely and important things to discuss with us, and this year is no exception. So let's start with our first vignette, where a distracted rep, an unencrypted laptop, and an unlocked car all add up to one thing: chaos. Let's take a look.
He's on his way to meet someone and completely distracted. He's a little lost,
Where the heck is this place?
very late,
Oh no.
and a lot of careless.
I'm just gonna try this building.
So, when he rushes off and leaves his unencrypted laptop still open on the front seat of the unlocked car, well, it's just too much temptation. Our guy thinks he'll be back in just a minute, but it takes less than 10 seconds for that thief to grab a handful of personal client information that will compromise his clients and our guy's business. So, protect yourself and your business from chaos, like me.
This seems like a common scenario these days. We're all busy, we're all rushing to get somewhere, and it's very easy to get distracted and make mistakes. It's just that when mistakes involved your client's sensitive information, the consequences are much greater.
That's so true. And that's why our message today is a reminder to stay focused and remember your responsibilities. As a Primerica rep, your clients are trusting you with their sensitive personal information, and it's your responsibility to keep that information safe.
There are ways to keep personal information secure, both physically and electronically. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Sure. So in the vignette, we saw a laundry list of things you shouldn't do. Don't leave Primerica-related files, computers, or other devices in your car, or anywhere other than in your locked office or on your person. It would have been better for this rep to have locked the laptop out of sight in the trunk and to have locked his car. But we frequently hear that thieves have stolen devices from locked cars too. So it's really best not to leave your laptop or any work files in your car.
So what if an electronic device or files are stolen? What should a rep do?
First, call law enforcement if a crime occurred. Then call the compliance help desk. Report the incident as soon as possible, the same day it occurs. We'll ask you about whether the device was encrypted and whether it contained any personal information about clients or downlines. We'll then help you with the next steps, including notifying affected individuals and regulators if required by law.
We do hear a lot about cyber breaches in the news, so it's understandable that our clients are often worried about privacy and security. How can our reps assure their clients their information is safe?
First, take the time to learn and follow our privacy and cybersecurity rules. We risk losing a client's trust if it looks like we're not being careful with business information. Next, use our privacy notices to explain to clients how their information is protected. For US reps, whenever you meet with a client or a potential client to discuss a product, it's required that you deliver a privacy notice for that client's state. All our US privacy notices are in English and Spanish and can be found in the privacy link at the bottom of Primerica.com. Our new CCPA policy for California residents is there too, but does not need to be handed out to clients. In Canada, our privacy disclosures and consent are actually already part of our product application. Clients who want more details can see our full Canadian privacy code, which is also in the privacy link at the bottom of Primerica.com and PrimericaCanada.ca.
So when they have to handle it, how should our reps store sensitive personal information?
First, let's define what kind of information we're talking about. Sensitive personal information are things like social security numbers or social insurance numbers in Canada, driver's license numbers, and any government ID numbers, dates of birth, health information, payment card numbers, bank and investment account numbers, and fingerprints. Here's what we advise you to do to protect that sensitive personal information. Don't keep copies of sensitive personal information anywhere unless you need it there due to retention requirements or due to business. If you need to keep personal information on a computer, then make sure it's encrypted first, and then delete it and empty the trash when you no longer need to keep it. Keep paper files locked inside your secure, locked office. Keep electronic files in POL, VBS, and Turbo apps, which are encrypted when they're closed. For laptop and desktop computers, you can activate encryption several different ways. You can download and install Checkpoint Endpoint Protection from POL, which is available as part of a POL subscription, or you can activate built-in encryption like FileVault on Mac computers and BitLocker on certain types of PC computers.
What about your phone, tablet, or other mobile device?
First, don't store sensitive personal information on those mobile devices. They're often stolen and have different built-in protections. Second, make sure you have a password, passcode, or fingerprint login required to use your phone or tablet. That will activate built-in encryption on most newer Apple and Android phones and tablets. But remember, laptops and desktop computers are different and require you to actually install and activate encryption, not just protect them with a password.
So that brings us to password security, which I'm guessing is something stronger than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Absolutely. You want to pick original passwords and something you will remember. A good trick is to pick a phrase or even a song title with punctuation and replace some words with numbers like the number 2 for the word to. Don't share your business-related password with anyone, and don't sign into anyone else's business accounts using their passwords. Never sign into your client's account using your client's information. This is prohibited even if your client told you to do it.
Okay, now I'm rethinking all of my passwords. So you're gonna help us out with the next topic, right?
Sure.
Coming up next is email use. In this segment, we're still discussing information security, but as you'll see, a rep is using an unsecure email while chaos is tempting her to rush out the door. Let's take a look.
This is a rep who needs to contact her client and get ready for an after-work date. She has lots of information to confirm. Personal information. She'd be typing away and sending out her client's bank account, routing number, and social security number all through an unsecure email? Of course not. But she's gonna do it anyway. She's late, and she still has to do her makeup. But after she hits send,
Okay, that was for Tom, and wait, who is Tim?
and she knows she can't get it back. All it takes is one wrong keystroke, and she's compromised her client's information and possibly put her business in jeopardy. Protect yourself and your business from chaos like me.
That chaos can be quite distracting, but the underlying message is about unencrypted emails and sensitive information.
Correct. We generally advise everyone to avoid sending sensitive personal information over email. When you're sending emails back and forth, it's easy to make a typo and send something to the wrong person, like we saw in the vignette. It's also easy for the other person to forward the email to someone else, on purpose or by mistake. Regardless of how it happens, your client's sensitive information can be compromised.
So if you do have to send sensitive information over email, what are the rules you should follow?
First off, double check and triple check that you typed in the correct email address. This is a very common, easy mistake to make. If you're emailing someone from Primerica, send the email from your @primerica.com email address to the other person's @primerica.com email address. And make sure your email doesn't fill in that person's Gmail address by mistake.
Many of our clients obviously don't have a Primerica.com email, and a strong request from last year was that reps needed a secure way to email clients.
We heard the field loud and clear, and we were able to offer a secure solution. Last year, we rolled out our new secure email feature, and we're pleased to say it's really been embraced by the field. All reps can use their Primerica.com email address to send emails using our new secure email function. To use it, you have to actually click the secure button. When you do, it will add the word secure to the subject line, so you know it's secure. Leave it there and don't delete it, or it won't be secure anymore. The client on the other side will create a username and password to access the secure email within a portal where it will sit for a temporary period of time. The client can even reply with sensitive information as long as they stay within the portal. And the emails are all still captured by Primerica for retention and supervision purposes. This is not to say you can't use the trusted old-fashioned methods, which are still available, like handing it over in person if you're not social distancing, using snail mail, or old-fashioned fax machines.
So let's say you're using email and something comes through with an attachment. What should you do there?
Anytime you send or receive an email with an attachment that has sensitive personal information, be careful where you download and save that attachment. Only save the document on a computer that is encrypted and meets all the cybersecurity requirements.
Let's talk about another email risk, and that involves phishing with a PH.
Just a word to the wise, criminals have gotten very sophisticated. Be suspicious of all unexpected phone calls, text messages, or emails, especially if they ask for money, your password, or any of your personal information or client details. Don't click on the message's links or attachments. If you're not sure, call the person or company who supposedly sent it to you to make sure it's real. You can even forward suspicious emails to abuse@primerica.com, and our tech pros will take a look.
Thanks, Shive. It's nice to know there's a support system to help us keep our information and our clients' information secure. So next up, we're going to talk about hierarchy integrity. I'd like to welcome SNSD Andy Young and Associate General Counsel Peggy Jenkins. To get started, we've got another dramatization, which is a little different and a little closer to home. Let's see what happens when a rep decides he'd like to switch base shops. How should the RVPs involved handle it? Let's find out.
That should be our focus right now. Our focus should be on recruiting and getting these recruits licensed.
Yeah, well, follow-up has always been the hardest part for me. So
All it takes is a little organization on your part. Budgeting your time, trying to get them there on time.
Now is not the time to dream small. Now is the time to dream big. No, push past what you think is possible. Envision the impossible coming true for you and your team.
I really think this RVP is for me.
We got to be about building, team building.
I gotta go see her.
We've got to promote RVP.
Later that week at the Other Base Shops Op Night. All right, let me give you a little background about our company in case you're not aware. We are the largest independent financial services marketing company in North America. We have over 126,000 licensed reps. We're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Our symbol is PRI. We've been in business since 1977. And here to talk more about that is our own RVP, Ms. Teresa Knight. Give it up for Teresa.
Thank you. Yes, have a seat. Wow, you guys are a good-looking group. I got to tell you, we got a nice group here. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. You like what you've heard so far?
Yes.
Of course you do. Yes. Now, I think we're all here for the same reason. We all want a better quality of life. Isn't that right? Yeah. So the great news is that Primerica offers this opportunity to everyone and anyone who wants to work hard and succeed. So if you like what you've heard here tonight, I want you to get with the person who invited you and go further. And on behalf of myself and my amazing team, I want to thank you for being an awesome audience. You're an awesome audience. Let's give yourself a hand. Yeah. And I look forward to seeing all of you at the next team training. That's right. I'll see you, right? I'll see you. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Excuse me. Miss Knight? Hi. I'm Michael. This is my wife, Claire.
Wow, nice to meet you. Call me Teresa, please. So glad you guys could come out tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you how much I wanted to meet you. I saw some of your team photos on Instagram and videos on POL, and I was blown away. I think you're great, and I love your energy and the environment you have, and I just wanted to be a part of that.
Wow, well, thank you. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and get you guys signed up with some IBAs. Hold on one second. Okay. Can we get a couple of IBAs for Michael and Claire?
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, actually, I'm already a part of Primerica. I'm a rep in David Vaughn's base shop, and I was thinking maybe my wife, Claire, could go ahead and sign IBA, get started, then I'd follow.
Oh.
At this point, the RVP can choose two options, doing what's right or doing what's wrong.
Well, I was thinking my wife, Claire, could sign an IBA and get started tonight. Then I could follow, of course.
I see. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, personally, I'd love to have both you and Claire on my team. This was a real bold move. I like bold. Love this energy. If you were on my team, I'd have you on stage, spreading the motivation to everybody else. This is awesome. What do you say about hosting an op night?
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
We love to be part of your organization.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and get Claire to sign an IBA, and then we'll start working on the pre-licensing.
Yes, that sounds so great.
All right.
We're in.
I'm excited.
Thank you.
Clearly, this is not the way to handle this situation. Let's watch as our RVP does the right thing both in the moment and after the rep leaves.
Well, I was thinking my wife, Claire, could sign an IBA tonight and get started, and then I'd follow, of course.
Well, that's really interesting. Can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
Now, you said you were part of David Vaughn's base shop?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I know him really well. He's a great guy and a really good mentor. Have you shared your concerns with him?
Well, not exactly.
Yeah, I think you do yourself a real favor if you reach out to him. I mean, people a part of his shop have been very successful.
Well, when I heard you talking, I just felt really...
I know. We all have our own styles, but David has his too. I'm telling you, give him a call. I think he'd be a great mentor for you.
You know what? I think I'll give it a try and maybe call him tomorrow.
Great. And guys, it was great meeting you tonight. This was awesome.
It's really good meeting you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That night, Teresa gives David a call.
Hello?
Hey, David. Yeah, it's Teresa. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. What's up?
Well, I just wanted to give you a little heads up. I had one of your reps, Michael, stop by tonight with his wife. It was our op night. Anyway, he was a little unhappy. He talked about switching base shops. Of course, I convinced him to stay with you, but I just wanted to give you a little heads up.
Michael? Really? I just talked to him last week. Well, I really appreciate you calling, and you're a great business partner and a good friend. Thanks.
David, I've known you for several years. I know you to be a wonderful mentor. We just got to give Michael time to see that, right? Anyway, I think in situations like this, it's best we just have each other's back. It's also what's best for Primerica.
Thanks, Teresa. That means a lot coming from you. You're right, and we are all on the same team. Thanks again for giving me a call. I really do appreciate it.
Anytime.
Good night.
Bye.
The activity we just saw is something we call poaching, and it can have a severe impact on a base shop. Peggy, can you first describe what poaching is and the problems it can cause?
Sure. Poaching happens when someone incents or encourages a person to leave their base shop or the hierarchy and move into another. This also includes situations like we saw in the vignette, where a rep decides for whatever reason they want to make a change. Poaching can be subtle or overt, but regardless of the circumstances, poaching is a clear violation of company policy.
And Peggy, how should our RVPs handle it?
The best way to protect against it is to maintain open lines of communication with your downlines. Create a supportive and safe environment in your base shop where everyone feels valued. You want everyone on your team to feel comfortable talking to you. If you find a rep is unhappy concerning their upline, encourage them to go back and talk to their upline and work it out, not jump ship. You could also direct them to call the home office for help and guidance.
So in this dramatization, we saw the wrong way and the right way for the RVP to handle this. Andy, what's your take on it from a field perspective?
Well, there's a few points I'd like to make. The second RVP did the right thing when she directed the young man to discuss whatever issue he had with his upline. That's usually the best course of action. Secondly, RVPs are professionals and they need to support and respect each other. I mean, calling the first RVP to let them know what's going on is a professional way to handle this communication, one leader to another.
And there's also a larger message here as well.
Oh, yes, there is. I mean, from a Primerica standpoint, we all need to support each other and stay on the same page. We're always going to have people issues. We're in the people business. But as leaders, uplines, mentors, everyone should respect each other and the integrity of the company and your own business as you build it for generations.
Yeah, very well said. And that brings us to something else we'd like to talk about today: discrimination and sexual harassment. Peggy, can you address those for us?
Yeah. At Primerica, we expect our entire field force to treat everyone with respect, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, or political beliefs. Primerica prides itself in being diverse and inclusive. This is the way you grow your business. A person coming into a base shop that sees a supportive, respectful environment run by a professional team leader is more likely to stay and hopefully become a productive member of your team.
Challenges in the base shop should be addressed immediately. And again, use the home office staff, especially if you need help with things like alleged sexual harassment or misconduct or any discrimination. It's absolutely necessary to involve Peggy and her team in situations of that nature. So let's move on to our next topic today, recruiting. One of the guidelines we always mention when recruiting is to never misrepresent our opportunity. That really sets the tone for our recruiting message.
Yes, and that not only includes honesty when presenting our great opportunity, but also being upfront about the importance of attaining the licenses necessary to sell our products. Never misrepresent our company, our opportunity, or the requirements to conduct our business.
And I might add that, when you recruit, it's also important to assist new recruits in developing their warm markets. This will help as you get them field trained, help them to see success. Never take advantage of a new recruit's warm market. You got to help them develop and grow.
That's such good advice. So Andy, when signing up a new person, we should discuss completing the IBA. How do you train your team to do this?
This is what I tell my team about IBAs and how to complete them. First off, IBA questions should be asked and answered as they appear. You can't paraphrase and say, have you ever, as opposed to saying, well, the last 10 years and start making stuff up. Have you ever means have you ever. Be upfront, honest. Doing so will help you and your new recruit get moving in the long run. Always submit a legitimate IBA.
Yeah, POL is an important tool to help new recruits grow their business. So how do you explain those POL fees?
Well, new recruits are always encouraged to sign up for POL. They get so much for the $25 a month fee. And when you're training pre-licensing courses, all the tracking in your business, if you built any kind of business anywhere, you're going to make an investment. You got inventory, back office, real estate people pay a fee every month, considerably more than we do. So the support of the home office, everything we've got in place to track your team, it would cost much more to set up in any other kind of business. So it's an incredible deal you're getting for the money.
Thanks, Andy and Peggy, for joining me today and offering such insightful information.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks.
Next, we're going to discuss social media. Joining me now is Associate General Counsel Michelle Chastain. Thanks for joining me today, Michelle.
Thanks, Julie. It's great to be back, and I'm so excited to share some exciting social media changes.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to tell everyone. But first, let's take a look at how Chaos is trying to make a big splash on social media using all the wrong messaging.
I'm that new post you just splattered all over social media. Like me. I'm letting everyone know you are so proud of your new car. It's a beauty, and it costs a fortune, hence the dollar signs. And I might add, you pay cash. Shall I flash that? The great thing is, it goes so well in front of your new $2.5 million mansion. I'm showing that off too. Booyah! Take that, all you naysayers who never thought you'd be living here. And I'm not so suddenly telling the world that you make six large figures. I can say that, right? The whole amount, because you earned it. So I'm going to shout it with all caps. The only problem is, where am I going to squeeze in a picture of that new boat? After a new recruit sees my post and thinks this could all be theirs in the first 30 days, reality's going to set in. Did I misrepresent the opportunity? Just a little. Will some people feel misled? Maybe. Could there be a regulatory complaint? Oh yeah, and that's just the beginning. So protect yourself and your business from chaos, like me.
Most of us love using social media to connect with people and keep up with family and friends. But as we saw, chaos never seems to follow any rules. So let's go over some of the do's and don'ts and what's new this year.
Absolutely, Julie. Chaos always seems to go a bit too far, but he is a good example of what we still need to stay away from when posting something. Social media is a great tool that can help grow your Primerica business, and it's a wonderful way to stay connected with your warm market. I've said it before, but what you post online is considered advertising by the regulators. With the pandemic, business opportunities and recruiting posts have remained a large focus of the Federal Trade Commission. And product content is also regulated by the Departments of Insurance, FINRA, the SEC, and the MFDA.
To help navigate the landmines, we've spent the better part of this year looking at ways we can give more guidance about how to build a positive social media presence. But it's still important to know the landmines.
Yes, it is. Earnings claims are still problematic, especially when it comes to guaranteeing certain commissions or suggesting people will have success at Primerica. And it isn't just high earnings amounts. Even saying someone can earn $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000, if not typical, is a problem under FTC rules.
With the recent social media blueprint, we've tried to be more proactive about showing you, our field force, how you can build your business online.
Yes, we've given more guidance on posting milestone achievements and using the bit.ly link and other on-screen disclosures, but it's important to remember that a disclosure won't cure posts with earnings claims, like making a six-figure income, or with lifestyle images of fancy houses, cars, boats, or even expensive trips.
It's great that we're giving the field more guidance. Can you tell me about some of the other changes that have been made to help reps use social media the right way?
Sure. We prepared for the recent release of the new social media blueprint by creating more pre-approved content, which now includes some product posts, including client solutions content, and also educational concepts, things like how money works, the rule of 72, and posts about our other lines of business. But we still don't allow solicitation of any investment products online.
We're also building out a social media team at the home office that's focused on growing the field's use of social media with continued input from some of our most savvy field leaders.
All of the broad principles about best practices in building your business on social are contained in the new social media blueprint, which reiterates that recruiting is definitely allowed as long as it's done in a way that meets company and regulatory requirements.
So can you tell everyone a little more about where to find all of the pre-approved content you mentioned?
Sure, it's actually quite easy. Follow this click path and you'll be taken to the Social Media Resource Center, which contains the growing library of pre-approved content as well as the blueprint. We're also working to expand things to ensure all of this information is available not only on POL, but also within the Primerica app. And as I say each year, if those of you watching have ideas you want to share, please email them to socialmedia@primerica.com.
Thanks, Michelle, for helping to clarify what we can do with social media. Next, we'll be moving on to elderly and vulnerable clients. Joining me now is Christina Kramer, Vice President of our Securities Compliance Department. Welcome.
Thanks, Julie.
During this segment, we're going to talk about financial exploitation of elderly and vulnerable persons. As our population ages, it's more important than ever to be aware of warning signs that may indicate elderly or vulnerable clients are being taken advantage of.
That's very true. As of March 2019, retirement assets totaled more than $29 trillion, with close to 50% of those assets belonging to people who are age 65 or older. This increase in the elderly population and the wealth they have accumulated makes them a target for financial exploitation. Scammers target the elderly because many times they are lonely or have cognitive impairments like dementia or Alzheimer's. And not only do we need to be aware that elderly persons may be victims, but vulnerable persons with diminished capacity can also be victims.
It's terrible to think that anyone would take advantage of an elderly or vulnerable person. We definitely need to understand and be aware of what financial exploitation is and what to do if we see it.
Financial exploitation occurs when a person misuses or takes the assets of a vulnerable adult for their own personal benefit. This usually occurs without the explicit knowledge or consent of the vulnerable person. We have talked about elderly persons being targets for financial exploitation, but in addition, people who are not considered elderly but may have diminished capacity are also vulnerable to financial exploitation. A person with diminished capacity is not defined by age, but rather as a person who has a decline in his or her ability to manage money and financial assets. This also includes the inability to understand the consequences of investment decisions.
What are some signs our field should be on the lookout for, and what can they do to help protect our clients?
Well, when it comes to diminished capacity, we always need to be on the lookout for red flags. Some examples are when a client is unable to process simple concepts, has memory loss, and may show confusion about transactions on their accounts, or is unable to appreciate the consequences of decisions, or has erratic behavior and maybe makes decisions inconsistent with their goals.
Can you share some examples of financial exploitation of an elderly or vulnerable person?
Yeah, a couple examples are when a caregiver shows excessive interest in the elder's or vulnerable person's finances, doesn't allow them to speak for themselves, and is reluctant to leave the elder's side when you want to discuss their financial needs. Or maybe when a new person is suddenly involved in your client's financial affairs, such as a new power of attorney or a family member who recently moved in with the elderly person.
There certainly is a lot to consider. Are there any other situations we need to be aware of?
Other things to watch out for are maybe if your client starts taking unexplained or unusual redemptions, especially when they're not concerned with sales charge or surrender fees. Or your client appears to be coerced or doesn't appear to have control over his or her money. You know your client and their typical behavior. If you ever feel that something just doesn't seem right, never hesitate to reach out to the home office to discuss your concerns.
I remember last year you had a very impactful example of a client a Primerica rep was able to help.
That's right. And in 2019, we had another incident where a rep called the home office because his client's daughter called him with concerns that her mother, the rep's client, was being scammed. Fortunately, the daughter of the client was listed as the secondary contact on the client's accounts, so we were able to call her and discuss the accounts and her mother's mental state. The mother was in a wheelchair and lived in an assisted living facility, and her children lived several hours away. Her family created a Facebook account for her so they could stay connected, but unfortunately, a scammer was able to use Facebook to scam the client. He convinced the client he was involved in a secret military mission and could not call her, but through their Facebook conversations, they fell in love. She began liquidating her investment accounts and sending money and gift cards to the scammer. All the transactions were sent to different checking accounts and different names. The client thought it was to protect the man she loved. Because the rep contacted the home office, we were able to freeze her accounts, get adult protective services involved, and convince her of the truth, and she no longer sent money to the scammer. And this is just one of many examples of how reps referring situations like this allow us to help our clients.
Even though it's unfortunate to hear about situations like this, it's reassuring to know that the home office will support and work closely with our Primerica reps to do what's right when helping to protect our clients. So it's usually a stranger who commits the financial exploitation?
Unfortunately, no, it's not always a stranger who commits the crime. According to the National Association of Adult Protective Services, 90% of abusers are a family member or trusted friend. They also report 1 in 9 seniors has reported being abused, neglected, or exploited within the last year. And 1 in 20 seniors has indicated some form of perceived financial mistreatment. And even with those high numbers, they believe that financial exploitation is massively underreported.
And you have shared with me that in the US and Canada, a large number of scams that concerned elderly or vulnerable persons had to do with the internet, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. Some scams included emails claiming if you send money, you will receive a large return, or a group claiming to raise money for a charity, a supposed military person needing help to come home, or even romance scams. If your client ever tells you he or she wants to send money to a person or group they met online, especially if the money is sent internationally, this could be a scam.
And in unusual times like these with the pandemic, it seems there's a lot more scammers out there trying to take advantage of people.
You're exactly right. Since the breakout of COVID-19, the FBI has released a lot of information about scammers taking advantage of people's fears during this time of crisis. The FBI said some of the most common fraud schemes they are seeing is government impersonators. These scammers reach out via email or social media to discuss financial benefits. There's also investment fraud, where criminals offer the opportunity to invest in a cure or treatment for the virus, a get-rich-quick scheme. If your client mentions something like this to you, please reach out to the home office.
So the message is that we have to be vigilant now more than ever. If our reps suspect a situation like this is happening, how should they handle it? What exactly should they do?
Well, if you're concerned that a client is suffering from diminished capacity or maybe a victim of financial exploitation, you should proceed cautiously and immediately call the Compliance Help Desk to report your concerns. Here are the numbers for both US and Canada. Federal and state regulators, state agencies, and law enforcement are very much focused on financial dealings with elderly and or vulnerable clients. The company is required to investigate and, if necessary, report all cases of suspected financial exploitation of an elderly or vulnerable client.
Is there anything the field can do to help their clients be proactive?
Yes. Reps can help their investment and savings clients be proactive by designating trusted individuals as secondary contacts. As we discussed in the example earlier, a secondary contact can help the home office if a situation arises in which a rep has reasons to believe the client is suffering from diminished capacity or financial exploitation.
How can clients designate a secondary contact?
New clients can designate a secondary contact on the new account application, and existing clients in the US can add one by submitting a secondary contact information form. And in Canada, reps can submit a trusted contact form. Both can be found on POL. Just follow the click path on the screen. In the US, you can find additional information about specific responsibilities regarding elderly and vulnerable clients on POL in Section 5 of the Securities Compliance Manual. And for California, there's a state-specific guideline listed in the Insurance Compliance Manual, as well as secondary addressee requirements for Florida and Vermont.
Thanks, Christina. So we're going to wrap up our last segment together with some legal reminders. In this last segment of ACM, Christina and I would like to go over a couple legal and compliance reminders for you, our Primerica reps, to stay in good standing with the regulators.
We should discuss a few things that I'm sure everyone is already aware of, but it's always good to be reminded. To ensure various state laws and regulatory requirements are being met, it's very important that you notify the home office immediately if any of the following occur: a change to your home or office address, felony or misdemeanor charges and/or convictions. This includes charges that resulted in a pretrial program. It is important to remember your reporting requirements occur at the time of the charge, so don't wait until everything is completed to tell the company. And in Canada, any and all criminal charges must be disclosed. If you have filed for bankruptcy or if a previously reported bankruptcy has been discharged or dismissed, if a garnishment, judgment, or lien has been filed against you, or if you made a compromise with a creditor, or if there's been an update to an already reported financial event, such as one being satisfied or released. Also, let the home office know when any administrative action taken by an insurance department, professional licensing authority, other governmental agency, or non-governmental regulatory authority like FINRA and MFDA, such as having your insurance license or right to practice law suspended or revoked.
Are there state or province reporting requirements as well?
Yes, your state Department of Insurance may also require notification of any of the information I just listed. This is a separate requirement from your obligation to notify the home office and includes both resident and non-resident licensed states. In Canada, these standards are the same across all provinces, so you have to report. Remember, it's your responsibility to timely disclose this information to the home office and your state Department of Insurance when required. If you ever have any questions, please refer to the compliance manual on POL. In addition, if you're involved in any legal issues, lawsuits, or are contacted by a regulator, you should contact the home office immediately. You may not testify on behalf of other Primerica representatives or take it upon yourself to speak to regulators on behalf of the company. If you are ever unsure if something is reportable or how to handle any regulatory issue, please call us. Remember, we are here to help you in your business.
Thank you, Christina. And that wraps up the General ACM and insurance for this year. If you're life licensed, congratulations. This completes your ACM responsibility for 2020. If you're securities licensed, you'll need to watch the next required segment, the Firm Element and Securities ACM. In Canada, you'll watch mutual funds. If you're an RVP or satellite manager, you'll also need to watch the RVP branch manager segment. Please remember that all the information contained in ACM and everyone you heard from in this presentation are here to support you and help you run a compliant business. I'm Julie Seaman. Thanks for watching.